I'm still drunk from last night.
A stranger is just a friend you ain't met yet.
It's like you always say. It's not about the talent. It's about the drive.
Compound B.
I think if there's a way to screw this up, you'll find it.
Bees?
Welcome to Compound B, a show about the boys. I am Jamie G. Esquire V. No, despite how bad you want me to, I cannot and I will not defend you in a court of law. I'm here with Magnum Mills to talk about Gen V, a spinoff of The Boys. Mills, please introduce yourself. And man, I'm excited. Let's dive in here, buddy.
I am Magnum Mills. I am excited to dive in. You know how excited I am? It's like when an opposing counsel sees Jamie G in a courtroom, they just start salivating. That's how we want you to feel when it's time to check out Compound B. You can find us wherever you get your pods, on YouTube. That's Compound B with the B. Eventually, we'll tell you what the B stands for. You can find us on social media at Compound B Pod. That's Compound B, P-O-D. It rhymes nice, so you like me. And don't forget the flaps. It's cool to do nice stuff, but it's even cooler not to forget to follow, like, and please subscribe. Helps us out a lot. Helps other people find our channel and our show. We greatly appreciate it. It's all we ask. If you have fun, please tickle that thumb.
Please be warned, though, this is a full spoiler show for The Boys. We've got 3 seasons of that could come up, and it's a full spoiler show for Gen V. We could potentially spoil all released episodes of The Boys and Gen V, as well as any of the original comic stuff. So read the sign on the door, and you've been warned.
Is it pirate? I think it says pirate on the door, but whether or not it says private or pirate, we'll deal with that later. Here's the deal. They dropped all the first 3 episodes at once. We're going to try to discuss them one by one. We know most of y'all have probably seen all 3 right now, but sometime in the future, people might, watch them one at a time. So we're going to do our best to kind of move through them one by one here, not spoil anything from the future episodes. So when we're talking about 1, we won't talk about 2 and 3, and when we're talking about 2, we won't talk about 3, maybe a little bit at the end, but that's what they in the business call a tease.
Well, I'm glad that they dropped 3 episodes right out of the gate, just so we had 3 to watch. I mean, it was fun, but it does make it a bit tricky to cover. So we still wanted to split it up episode by episode to make sure that we give each one their proper due, give it the attention it deserves. We're going to start with episode 1 here and work our way through. Mills, send us on our way. Hey.
Yeah, I don't know if Rusted Root would be playing Godolphin University, but this is Season 1, Episode 1, the first overall episode of Gen V, titled God You. Originally released September 29th, 2023 on Prime Video, along with episodes 2 and 3. This was directed by Nelson Craig. He's also directed 2 episodes of The Boys, most notably Herogasm in Season 3. We like that one. Episode was written by Eric Kripke, Craig Rosenberg, and Evan Goldberg. All 3 are writers / showrunners / producers on The Boys. Special guest stars include Elizabeth Shue as Madeline Stillwell and Jesse T. Usher as A-Train. Guest starring Patrick Schwarzenegger as Golden Boy, Ty Barnett as Malcolm Moreau, Miata Ade Labille as Jackie Moreau, Alexander Calvert as Rufus, Maya J. Bastidas as Justine, Daniel Breen as Social Media Jeff, and Robert Bascoe as Liam, Alex Castillo as Vanessa, and finally, big name at the bottom, Clancy Brown as Professor Rich Brinkerhoff. And a word from Gen V. Congratulations. You've been chosen for admission to Godolphin University. We're thrilled to be a part of your journey to discovering what kind of soup you are. Since its founding in 1965, God U has produced some of the best and brightest superheroes the world has ever known, including 3 members of the 7. And who knows, maybe you'll be next. Jamie G, does this not sound a lot like how colleges are probably pitching football players these days? Like, I could see Coach Prime saying some stuff like this.
Yes. I mean, this is, I don't know if it's a halftime speech or a locker room speech, but this is definitely a recruitment speech. And I do want to add, Magnum Mills, I think Rusted Root could find its way at this university. I mean, after all, Garbage made an appearance at the end of this episode. So I do think, or not Garbage, Hole made an appearance at the end of this episode.
How dare you mix up your mid-90s female-led grunge bands? How dare you? It's very college of you, because in college you would do that. That's the kind of thing that would happen in college. But also, yeah, probably Shirley Manson over Courtney Love. Shout out
Yes,
Kurt Cobain, but if you know, I would Shirley Manson. I'm always a big fan of her, and even on she was in the Terminator TV show, the original one. She played a Terminator, a very cool, like evil redhead Terminator. Pretty awesome.
Wow, way to go deep in the well there, Migs. The more you know. Now, guys, I don't know about you, you know, how much you remember about college, if anything. I mean, those days are a little foggy. We're getting on in years, but every day did start with the same choice. So I think that's how we should start off our discussion here.
You mean by deciding whether to go to class, or if we're going to go to class, do we just go to class in the clothes we slept in?
Not exactly. The decision before that one. You know, when your alarm goes off, you can ignore it and go back to sleep. You can hit the snooze and barely make it to class wearing the clothes you slept in, or you can hop right out of bed, get all gussied up, and be at class on time and ready because you love it that much.
Oh, I think this is the boy Ron's left's cousin, right? Because I think I know what you're saying here. It's like when we're talking about God U, that's episode 1 of Gen V. You want to know if we're skipping it, if we're hitting snooze, or are we on-time students? That's what you meant, right?
That's it, man. I mean, are you ready to go here?
You mean to do the shots, like the SHOTS? I guess we're really doing the college thing, right? All right, man. Give me your shots here on God U, baby. Overall thoughts.
I'm there. I think I'm pretty excited about the next one. You know what? I'll say I'm up, I'm showered, I'm gussied up, and I'm in class 2 minutes early. I really enjoyed just kind of how the camera kind of brought you in from an aerial view. You kind of got to see the school. It looks like, you know, a cutting edge, kind of like newer model school, just in its design. That was pretty cool. I haven't been at a college that looked like that before, so I enjoyed that. But I really enjoyed kind of the scene. You know, she's walking in, she's got her book bag, and you know, she looks up and she sees Homelander statue. I mean, that was pretty cool, just to kind of bring the boys into this early on, and then just getting in there. It looked like your first day at in the dorm, right? I mean, there's like, you know, people passing bongs around, there's, you know, people yelling, people making out, just crazy stuff, right? And you're like, wow, I'm in the hallway with all these other people and we have freedom. And so I thought it was a cool day. It brought me back to my roots of just like kind of those first days of college, how fun it was to get on campus, and kind of like you're an adult, but you're not. It's a weird part of your life when you go to college.
Nice. Like, you don't have to bring the professor and an apple or whatever, or, you know, be wearing a suit or whatever. Just being on there on time and attentive is what counts. And I have to be honest with you, when it was kind of going through it, I was like, all right. I was probably like more in the hit and snooze range. I was like, this is good. But, you know, what is it kind of? Like, you keep waiting for the shoe to drop, and then you got to the end, and then they basically drop 2 hammer shoes, like some hammer time, like he's dancing in the hammer pants on top of it. And, yeah, you know, again, I think we'll talk about that a little bit, is kind of, you know, how did the ending work for you and everything like that. But I think it definitely got me there to the point where, you know what, like when my alarm goes off, I'm already up. I'm not out of bed, but I've been up for like 2 minutes already. I turn it off, no snooze, do the shower, like actually brush my teeth, eat a real breakfast, all that good kind of stuff. Be ready to go, because I'm excited about this one.
Well, I think we probably need to start our way at the ending and work backwards on this one. Golden Boy and Professor Brink were both featured very prominently in the teaser and trailer. How surprised were you, Mills, here that they were taken off the board so early? And are you okay with it, knowing that we still have a full season here and they're both gone?
I was very surprised. I don't think I'm really surprised. I mean, in a good way. My main thing was like, oh man, is that all we're going to get out of Clancy Brown? You know, I was really disappointed because both of these characters and actors were all over the trailers, and they had billed them both as, you know, not in the main cast. So not an incredible surprise or anything like that when you really think about it after the fact. But dude, I mean, again, you know, and there's always the chance, you know what, let me just ask you right now. Are they both dead? You know, no spoilers or anything. I think it's safe to say with whatever we've seen, there's no reason to think they're not dead. But, you know, on this kind of show, it could happen, right? You know, you only saw one body, right? You never quite saw Brink's body. It's just flame, and then I don't know, any chance that either of them are still alive?
I'm telling you, there's a chance. There's absolutely a chance on the show, and I like that there's a little bit of intrigue on how they kind of wrapped. Right. I mean, we saw that happen. They're like, it's definitely a holy shit moment. I mean, let's just call it what it is. But there is that small doubt, that there is that small chance. I'm going to say they are both dead. But I think that's just me just betting the odds, but there is a chance.
It's the old, did you see the body? And I think Golden Boy, we definitely, I think, saw the body, or at least the pieces of the body. Brink, maybe it's a little bit more tenuous. You never know, especially because you're explicitly dealing with superpowers and stuff like that. I don't think it's insane, but I don't know that it needs to be like that. I guess it's the one thing that's maybe a little bit different in tone from the boys, right? That this feels like more like a little bit of the mystery puzzle box kind of show, where it's a little bit more, theorizing and that kind of thing. There certainly was some of that with the boys, but there's also source material there, so people had kind of ways to dig into it. Here, it's just tangentially based off the boys, so no one has any kind of inside knowledge or anything like that I know of. So I think it is interesting that they're trying to add kind of more of a level of intrigue, maybe, whereas the boys, it's kind of just like you kind of know what's going to happen eventually, but they throw in these little twists that make it really cool. In here, I think they could do that, but maybe also add a little bit, something that adds maybe to the conversation about trying to figure out where this is all going to go.
Well, any other thoughts on Golden Boy or Professor Brink before we move on? Did they leave you wanting more? Because I got to tell you, man, I really liked the character Golden Boy, and I thought the actor did a phenomenal job. I wanted to know more about the Woods. I wanted to know more about why he wasn't excited about being elected into 7. I wanted to know more about kind of this struggle that he's having as a, for lack of a better word, a young adult entering being a hero. And I thought that was something that they could really develop. So a little bit bummed that we're not going to get more of them, but I have high expectations that it'll pay off, and they've got a plan here. So I'm going to trust the process. But where are you at with these guys?
Nice to trust the process on the days we're recording this, where Drew Holiday got traded to the Celtics. He was the original player the Sixers traded to kick off the so-called process. So there's that for an NBA standpoint. I honestly think it's a great job that both Brink and Golden Boy seemed really likable, right? Like, I think Golden Boy towed that line where he was dick, but not a douche, maybe. Like the D, but not the D. Like you saw when he like rips some one dude's arms off, but he's actually like trying to help him out, and that people actually liked him. I don't think they were worshiping as much as they seemed to actually like him. And you got the feeling he was, I guess for a dude who has that kind of powers or whatever, a fairly down-to-earth person. And obviously I'm a little bit biased because I love Clancy Brown, and he's just so cool. And when he just shoots Jordan or whatever, and just he only gets, he gets what, 2 scenes? He gets more scenes in the trailer than he does in the show. And that disappointed me a little bit. But yeah, I would say definitely both left me wanting more. The only other thing I'd ask you, does this give you any vibes similar to you got at the end of the first episode of The Boys? Remember, you get kind of the same thing when there's a big fight between Huey and Butcher against Translucent in that, like, the store where Huey works, the electronics store, and then Homelander lasers the plane. I think it's the mayor of Baltimore or whatever. And it's kind of really shocking, right? You think he's like this good hero, and then you see that. Did this compare at all in that way? And if so, favorably or unfavorably?
I think it did a little bit, right? And I'm glad we got some wow moments, because if you remember that opening, pilot episode from The Boys, I mean, all those were wow moments, but you also got Huey with his girlfriend where A-Train runs through her, right? So you get introduced to, there was 3, 4, 5 serious wow moments in The Boys. This one, there were a couple here. I think that obviously the big one at the end here with Golden Boy and Brink, but there weren't as many wow moments, and maybe it's because we've seen so much from The Boys, it's hard to kind of duplicate that. But in a way, I'm almost glad they did this just to give us something where it was like, wow, didn't see that coming.
Looking back on it now, in retrospect, Monday Morning Quarterback, it's like, oh yeah, that's the only thing you could do, right? Take the 2 most well kind of known actors or names or pretty close to them that were in the trailers a ton, and take them off the board in episode 1. That how else could you deliver that big of a shock? But and again, don't want to spoil anything going forward, but I think it was cool. I'd like to see more of them, but I think it was cool that they're supposed to leave you despereatly wanting, right? Shout out Better Than Ezra.
Boy, we're on a roll here with 90s.
Yeah, well, remember you running
rock
through the wet grass, falling a step behind, both of us never tiring, desperately wanting.
Marie Moreau, what a great name. Let's start there. But she gets the most screen time here in episode 1, and we're kind of experiencing this world almost through her eyes. So what did you think about the introduction of her character? Obviously a lot of gore, a lot of blood, with Coagula there, and I still stand by that being an awesome nickname.
I am there also. I didn't think it was a bad nickname. I thought it was a good one. And it was really bloody, but I also thought it was cool. You could definitely lean too hard into that trope that you're kind of like, all the guilt hanging over somebody and why it drives. I mean, that's the Batman thing a little bit, right? Maybe Bruce Wayne doesn't necessarily feel he's responsible for his parents dying, but he feels like he couldn't prevent it. Here you have that pushed even further, where she is, yes, very positive. She is 100% responsible for her parents dying. And it's pretty brutal. It's obviously extremely graphic. And I think it works. There's a way, if the actress can't handle it, if they go too over the top where it just seems like too much or too contrived or whatever. Here it feels pretty natural, right? Like if this actually happened, I believe that this is how someone might choose to deal with it. You know what I mean? They have to make it all worthwhile, right? She killed her parents for this, so it all has to mean something. She has to use her powers, to be good or be a hero or whatever it is to kind of, redeem herself or something like that. So again, I thought it could be a little bit, again, but they're always trying to deconstruct these superhero tropes. It's all, I should say it's all been done, but it's really hard to come up with something original. I think they did a good job here of giving us a way in that makes us care about her. And it also, makes it kind of clear that she's not necessarily just doing it for her own ego or something like that.
Well, and I also appreciated that little scene where she's playing around with her sister, and what's her parents doing, right? Her dad is locked in and trying to share with her and get her to watch a historic moment involving superheroes. I really appreciated that little nugget, because it's almost like, her dad, and looking back, if they gave her V as a child, I got to believe it was because her dad wanted her to go on to be a superhero. We kind of saw that little snippet here. So I thought that was a really cool bit of writing. And I like that it's working its way back in throughout the development of her character.
And I think that's one thing that's really cool. It's almost not explored at all in the comics. They've only slightly explored it in The Boys, mostly through Starlight. But the idea that parents willingly gave their kids this drug, and not all of them get cool powers, right? And that's something that's more apparent in the comics, where there's these people who have like all these ridiculous superpowers to the point they're almost more handicaps than actual assets to you or something like that. And I think it's cool here that you get these college kids that are trying to deal with it now, especially someone like Marie, where she knows if she gets kicked out, she might get sent to Elmira or whatever, get sent upstate and never come back. So there's a lot of pressure here that their parents put on them. And you got the idea, I think, in The Boys with that, right? Like her mom did it because it was mostly for her. Yeah, she might have wanted her daughter to have a good life, but she also wanted herself to have a better life.
Yeah, and I'll also say too, I like that they're leaning into this a little bit, and we'll see if they do it more. But this idea of like, if you didn't develop a great superpower to the point where it can be used to fight crimes or entertain people with, like, via Disney or whatever, like this world's version of like making Disney movies or whatever, you basically get shipped off to like and hospitalized in a prison like setting. Like that's kind of a crazy
probably
thing to think about,
experimented on and everything.
Yeah, like it's a heavy thought. It's tragic, but I appreciate the show trying to plant that seed. We'll see if they dig into that a little bit more. It is important to remember this is a pilot episode, so we're introduced to a bunch of new characters here. Among others we got Andre, Emma, Kate, Jordan, and Shelly Kahn, the dean of the school. We'll get to talk about all of them here throughout the first 3 episodes, but as far as episode 1 goes, let's stick to Emma and Jordan. We'll start with Emma because it's pretty obvious that she's got the most memorable scene in the episode, and it was absolutely hilarious. I really, really enjoyed just how funny this scene was, and the fact that they took something and they made it comical.
It's definitely one of those, you wonder how they shot it. When the boys did the termite scene in episode 3, they actually built like the giant penis where like the dude could like actually walk into it or whatever. I wonder if they built the giant penis for her to kind of slide down or whatever. It looked, I don't know, something like that BoJack Horseman would have had in a weird dreamscape or something like that. It was just almost surreal, right? It was honestly like I just felt bad for her, really. Like at that point, it was just like, man, this dude's got some issues, right? And you just felt bad for her that she felt kind of obligated to go through with it or something.
And she's more than a party trick. She's more than this is a human being. And again, a good bit of writing here, kind of exposing what it would be like. It's not all roses and sunshine, and you've got the world by the short ones here. I mean, it's really challenging, I think, especially being an adolescent, young adult, trying to go. I mean, think about when you go to college, you're just trying to figure out like how to live, like find yourself. Imagine trying that plus, oh, I've got to manage the superpower that I have. It's a crazy thing, right? And so I really like the concept, and I like that they're exploring some of these things with her. Like, you can see the look on her face when, in her mind, she's thinking she's gonna, have an opportunity to hook up with a cute guy that she likes. But you realize real quick that he's just into it because she has this thing where she can turn into little cricket. And it's like, I like that they did that dynamic from a writing standpoint, because it creates some emotion, and it reminds you that at the end of the day, she's still a human.
Yeah, and I mean, I will say the bit when you find out when she kind of goes to the bathroom and puts on the towels, I was kind of like, where is this going? And then you get it like, oh man, she's got to puke to get small. That was kind of brutal, right? I mean, that's, I've seen other good things. I think Monster Girl and Invincible is a good example. Like there's superheroes that there's a price to pay for using your power or whatever, but that definitely sucks. I can't, and it's an obvious metaphor, but
yeah. Well, and she mentioned it too, like, it's not so easy for me to get small. Well, and that's, and so I kind of like this concept. I hope we learn more about. I have a lot of questions, right? Like, between getting small and getting big again. But this one was very fun, and it was a bit of comedy that I think we really needed. I mean, after all, we got college kids. Let's try to make it funny and lean into that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, we learned things from Inner Space that maybe she could apply. And I did think it was cool that they showed, like, I can't imagine going to college this day and age where people are this online doing TikToks and that kind of thing. I remember if you wanted to have, like, when Facebook first existed, if you wanted to have a Facebook account, you needed to have a .edu address. Like, you had to actually be in a college, because Facebook comes from when there used to be freshman Facebooks, where it would be basically a yearbook with all the freshmen and their names and faces. So when all these new people came to college, you could be like, hey, you're such and such. I saw you in the Facebook. That's where Facebook comes from. But I can't imagine now the pressure for some of these kids to, even especially like the athletes and stuff like that, to be all online all the time, and the branding and online presence. And, it's just wild. At some point, even to get bigger, you have to accept the fact there are people who will just follow you just to give you shit. And that sucks. But that's definitely
we saw that too with her, right? As she's reading all the reviews and comments, and Magnum Mills and Jamie G. Esquire V, we're not totally immune to that. We've gotten some crazy comments. Most of them have been great. We appreciate that. And this is the perfect time to say, give us a thumb, like, and subscribe. But some people have gone crazy on us and have literally just showered us with hate, just because I hope it made them feel better. I really do. But let's move on here, man. Let's get over to Jordan, the gender bender, in the words of the show. They went toe to toe here with Golden Boy, and they lived to tell the tale. They even appeared to be bulletproof at one point, which we saw when Brink shot them. Any thoughts on Jordan? I thought this was a really interesting dynamic, and kind of a way to kind of give you something that's a sign of the times here a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's, the show has been getting review bombed a little bit. If you go look around, it generally has a ton of, if it's 10 to 1, 10 reviews and 1s, or 5-star, 1-star, or whatever. And I think this is a little bit of it, because there's obviously, gender issues are a big thing right now. It's a real thing. And what I was wondering is how the show would portray it, right? Is it going to be kind of a sneak around thing where you do like the disguise, you can, switcheroo, whatever. Here, I think it's being more clearly portrayed as kind of two sides of the same person. So, they are all one person. I am curious, stopping a bullet or whatever, I think it maybe goes along with the idea that when you take V, as we saw in season 3 with the temp V, you generally get stronger and can heal faster and that kind of thing. So that's what I'm going with as far as that. I would like to know if there's a more specific kind of, power set available other than can just change genders. But I think the way it was portrayed here is certainly interesting, because they almost make it feel like it's a negative as much as it's a positive, right? Like, that shit'll never play in a middle America or whatever. So by default kind of, already behind the eight ball a little bit. And, that plays into, again, struggles of minorities, of all types.
Mills, we've both done the college thing. So let me ask you, man, what was the most college moment of the first episode? At what point were you like, yeah, this is feeling like college?
Actually, it's kind of funny because we were just talking about Jordan when Marie goes up to her and then finds out she's not in Brink's class. And it's not even because he said no, it's because, the TA said no. Super college, especially when you're a freshman and you're trying to get into, something like all the people on your hall are in or something like that. And I did go to a college once upon a time where the greatest thing you could do, it was called mathematics and gambling. There were only like 28 seats. You had to be like a fifth year senior to get into it, but the final exam was literally going to casino and gambling. So like that was always the one I wanted to get into but couldn't. But definitely as a freshman, especially try to get in a bunch of classes, especially that would fit in your schedule. It'd be like, oh yeah, you want to take this? You want to do it, Monday, Wednesday at 12 o'clock? How about Thursday from 9 p.m. to midnight or something? Very college. How about yourself, man?
The old one that got away there on the math gambling. That's a shame. For me, I got to go to the RA in the hallway, just kind of like, yeah, like when he comes to the door, and granted it's just a hat and glasses, so he's invisible, which is funny, and they do stuff with it. But when he comes to the door and he gives the note, and she's like asking him questions, like, I don't know, and I'm not your assistant, get a phone. Like, it's just so like, because sometimes you luck out and you get a good RA, but like sometimes you don't. And I don't know, that just brought me back a little bit. Let's flip it around a bit here. What's your favorite The Boys adjacent moment of this episode? Which moment made you believe that this is all happening in the same universe as The Boys?
I honestly think it's probably ultimately when Golden Boy exploded. When he went up and the blood rained down on everybody. I think that, felt like the most. We get some Easter eggs and everything about what's going on in season 4 of The Boys, the fallout from season 3. But I think that moment at the end where the guy you're expecting to kind of be the centerpiece of the show going forward just explodes and rains blood and guts on everybody. That was like, yeah, this is The Boys, right? So that was it for me. How about yourself, man?
Felt totally The Boys. I gotta say, even that opening scene with Marie felt a little boys-ish, and just
Killing
kind
her
of the
parents,
way they did that as a flashback.
100%.
That was up there for me. But I think it was just, it's hard to, I'm going to give you the Jamie G, a little column A, a little column B here. I think it was sprinkled in throughout the whole episode. We constantly saw and heard of, either pictures, visuals, or saw or someone talking about, the Maeve death, Maeve going away, Homelander, even Deep made an appearance. A-Train was up in the scene. The whole episode kind of made me believe, and I felt like I was in The Boys universe while this is going on at the same time. And you forget, like, if you're a young superhero going to college, and like, do they know all the craziness about Homelander? Do they know, do they know about Starlight's situation, how she kind of went against it and why? I mean, these are all things that made me excited about the show and allowed me to, believe we're all in the same universe. So it's hard for me to pick one singular moment, Magnum.
All right, Sonic, you are the best hedgehog.
Thank you, my brother. Well, let's get real with it and talk about our Gen V rankings. After one episode, let's rank the top 3 characters. Mills, you're up first here.
R.I.P. Golden Boy and Professor Brink. I was hoping both of y'all would be up there. As of now, I think you got to go Maria 1. She seems to be kind of, the main character and be pretty powerful. 2, I'm going to go Jordan, just because they went up against Golden Boy and he's supposed to be the shit and they held their own. And 3, Andre. He seemed kind of cool. You saw him kind of team up with Marie to stop the dude who escaped or whatever and was talking about the woods. And then at the end, he's good friends with Golden Boy. You feel like there's more to it. I think we know from the trailers that his dad is like a big time soup or whatever. So he's kind of got that whole, father complex going on and everything like that. So I'm going Marie, Jordan, Andre. What you got, Jamie G?
Those are really good, man. Yeah, I mean, shout out Golden Boy. He went out in a bang here. He probably would have been my favorite, but my top. But I've got to give it to Marie. I think she deserves it, and I like the fact that like her character is cool, but yet innocent, but yet badass. it's kind of this cool mix with her, and I really appreciate that. It's refreshing. So I got to put her up there. I'm gonna go Andre number 2, just because I think I'm excited to see where that goes. He saw a softer side. We saw a softer side of him. We saw a fun side of him. And we saw a side of him that made him regret his own power when somebody bumped into him and he put the hummingbird into that lady's artery that obviously Murray saves the life of. So I think there's something to him. We saw kind of some range there. I'm excited about that. And 3, I got to give it up for Little Cricket. For no other reason than I just enjoy every scene Little Cricket's in.
Yeah, I was gonna say if we weren't gonna give it up to her, like we could at least give her the Tribe Called Quest award because can she kick it? Yeah, hell yeah, she can. Little Cricket can kick it.
Little Cricket can kick it all day long. It is college, so there does have to be a grade involved, unfortunately. What do you think, Mills? On a scale of F- to A+, what grade do you want to give to God You, the first episode of Gen V? And every time I say God You, just shout out You God from Wu-Tang. I thank you all the time, but that's a side note.
Golden Arms unite, baby, and that it feels like God You should have some golden arms. I'm giving it a solid B+, man. It wasn't the greatest pilot I've ever seen or anything, but I think they had a lot of work to do to set up the world and a lot of work to do to justify it being a spinoff of The Boys. And I think they got there. We talked about it in our preview, like we needed to buy into the characters. And I'm enjoying most of these characters. I'm curious about them. They did a good job of getting me invested in them. So I think a solid B, it's showing with room to grow. Jamie G, how are you feeling about it, man? Give me a grade. God You.
I'm going to give this thing a B+. For me, I really enjoyed the work that it did to introduce, you got a lot to do here. Introduce all new characters. They're younger actors and actresses. So finding their rhythm, connecting with them, utilizing their story to do so, giving them the right scenes, all that seemed to work pretty well for me. There was some action here. There was some humor here. And there was kind of a big moment at the end that left us saying, wow, didn't see that coming. So I'm going to give it its due, man. And oh, by the way, it also plugged right into the same world as The Boys while The Boys are going on. That is living high on the hog. It is hard to be on The Boys level. That's rare air. So I got to give them a little bit of credit here. I'm going B+.
Nice. So it seems we're kind of on the same level here. I don't know, man. Before we go on, anything else? Any other thoughts on episode 1? I do just want to point out some of the Boys tie-ins here. Like you saw the Vought News thing. It says, new evidence Russia plotted the 7 Tower attack. That's from the season 3 finale when Soldier Boy went boom. Again, they think Queen Maeve is dead, but Vaught's still selling her, Brave Maeve meals and everything like that. And then there's even a little bit, like on the bottom of the Chiron or whatever, they're talking about Homelander, because at the end, he lasered the dude at the very end and then kind of smiled. And they're doing a stand your ground thing. It just says, like I said, Homelander's lawyer is like, oh, he stood his ground. So they are definitely, even if it's just tangential, they are trying to make it tie into The Boys. So, I think that's cool. And, hopefully we get maybe another unexpected cameo or 2. I didn't think we were going to get, Madeline Stillwell. That was cool. So, maybe we get a couple more.
This show could very easily be overshadowed by The Boys. And it probably won't ever be able to be as good as The Boys. Maybe I'm wrong. But that's rare air. So you have to walk this fine line where if you're going to do that and incorporate it and make it kind of live in parallel, you got to do it right. I think they did. It wasn't too much. It was just enough. And I like the fact that it's there to remind you when you need it. So I'm pretty excited about heading into episode 2.
You feel like this could be like the Frasier to the Cheers or something, more so than like the NCIS Tuscaloosa or whatever to NCIS or whatever they have these days. You know what I mean? Like more of a tightly tied spinoff than I guess Frasier wasn't too tightly tied, but you know what I mean. At least like the characters and the original creators seem to embrace it and try to integrate it and everything like that.
Yeah, and I really like that, and you're seeing it at a high level. We mentioned the director of this one directed some of our favorite episodes of The Boys. I really think that they've got an opportunity here to do something special with this. And you know what, dude, The Boys is such a great show. It's worthy of spinoffs and parallel universes and things happening within the same world. It's worthy of all that stuff. So I'm glad they're doing it. Anything else for you, brother?
I just loved more Diabolic season 2. Like, that would be great. We had Diabolic season 1. Would love to get more of those. And if you haven't read the comics, read them. It will not spoil you for the show. There are some similarities, don't get me wrong, but they're different enough that you could legitimately read the whole comic run. And I can almost guarantee you the show's not going to end the same way or anything like that. So you could do it. It would be cool. They're awesome. You should check them out. And it will give you added depth to watching Gen V and season 4 of The Boys when it comes out.
Thank you guys for checking out Compound B. Join us on our next episode where we cover episode 2 of Gen V, titled First Day.
Thank you, everybody, for watching, listening, whatever you're doing, checking us out. We really appreciate it. Again, Compound B. That's B with a B, just the B, like, bees. Find us wherever you get your pods. On the social media at Compound B Pod. We're on the YouTube. We are everywhere you need us to be. And please don't forget those flaps. Follow, like, and please subscribe. Helps other people find our show, find our channel. If you had fun, again, that's all we ask. Just the one thumb. Thank you very much for checking us out. Greatly appreciate it.
Now, I know everybody wants to know what the B in Compound B stands for. And in this episode, it stands for